I'm going to be showing you how to make your photos look better whenever you're shooting any type of proposals, which they've been picking up a little bit of traction on my page. So I just decided to take the initiative and show you guys how I make my photos a little bit better to my style. I'm not saying they're the perfect photo, but they're to my style. First, you grab your ARW photo for non-Sony users. That is your raw photo, and then you put it through Adobe Photoshop 2025. That's the version that I'm on. Through their noise reduction thing, as you can see right here, that I'm trying to highlight, and then that makes it into a DNG photo, which I save into my SSD drive. I never resave those same photos back into the SD card, which I got it from. I never even try to edit off of them, to be honest. I put them through my SSD, then I make them into a DNG photo and I keep them there. So, okay, back again. We're here, we already made our photo a little bit less denoised because obviously it's a little dark in that room, as most proposals are. And then I put it through the auto right here. First, it gives me a balanced photo. It's a pretty good balanced photo right there. And then what I like to do is make a mask. First, obviously it starts with the people. You duplicate and invert that mask. Now you have two set of masks right here, which is the background and the foreground. Okay, and then I always like to make a third mask, which is hiding the pathway all the way into the couple. And that one typically goes half a stop down on the exposure, typically. Okay, now we have the balance photo. Typically what I try to do right after I build these three masks is make my couple a little bit brighter. They have the Will You Marry Me sign behind them, so it's giving them a little bit of a rim light going around them. So I have to make them a little bit brighter also because I'm fighting against that light right there. So to balance it out, I make them a little bit brighter, maybe a whole stop up right there. And then the background, I bring it down a little bit. And it's also gonna start bringing a little bit of detail into all these lights that are going around right here and give a little bit of more detailed look into this art, because as you can already see, it's changing a lot of things. These lights up top didn't have a lot of detail, the art didn't have as much detail, and now the couple is looking a little bit better. Also, with the mask that I made leading up to them, it's kind of naturally guiding your eyes over there. So that's for the first part, just to kind of have a good solid starting point photo. Next, I go into this tool right here, which is the eraser remove tool, AI generative tool that Adobe Photoshop has been including. I usually use generative AI and detect objects, keep it around size 50. Highlight that little part right there. As you can see, I highlighted it, and then I removed that. Let it do its thing, right? It does its little thingling. And typically while it's doing its thing, I just kind of look at the photo just to kind of get an idea of what I'm looking at exactly and what changes I want to make. I already see a couple things that I want to change. First, I'm gonna remove that door because not only is it bugging me, but I know it's gonna bug the couple. There, it took it off right there. It gives you three options. To be honest, the first one for me always kind of cuts it, so I'm not gonna try to mess with it anymore. Second, I'm noticing that there's not a lot of detail on these highlighted parts, and I'm noticing that these shadows and highlights are kind of going against one another or contrasting one another. So I bring down the shadows a little bit. Right there on its own, it's just gonna bring a little bit more detail all around the photo, and the highlights, it's gonna start affecting those fixtures right here. To be honest, I just keep it at the one where it naturally gives it to me, and I see the photo, it's a little bit dark overall, but now since I fixed all those extra details with the mask and everything else, I can raise my exposure. That's the reason why I don't do it right off the bat, because I kind of want to see my photo a little bit better with all the details and then raise the exposure, and then right there I can make a better decision overall. Another thing, I really don't like vignetting stuff, but people still like it, so I sometimes throw it in, or I just keep it at 0 and just use the negative space to give it some detail. So rule of thirds, negative space. But since I see this window over here and I don't really think that generative AI is going to give me a good photo, to be honest, I'm just going to vignette it. put a little bit of vignetting. Nothing above 15 because anything else just kind of looks a little bit tacky, kind of corny if you ask me. Something around the 15 mark, to be honest, that's kind of where I keep it mainly most of the time. And I don't know if I did mention this or not, but the masking, I typically keep it at 45. As you can see, press Option, key, masking. Make sure that you see all those little details. Just keep it at the details somewhere around there, and just leave it at that. It will only try to denoise or sharpen those little details right there so that your photo stays good. These two right here, I just keep it somewhere around 10 to 15. And that's typically it right there. But if you want to go a little bit deeper into it and give this photo a little bit more detail on it, you can highlight all of these boxes right here. I'm not going to go into it right now just because it's a little bit short of a tutorial, but I highlight each box and then I bring the exposure down just a little bit because most of these boxes, as you can see, are a little bit too bright where you can't even see that little hummingbird. In case you weren't able to tell, that was a hummingbird right there. Highlight all of them right there, bring down the exposure a little bit, not too much, maybe just a little tad bit, or you could just bring down the highlights and it'll make it look pretty decent. But to be honest, with these right here, I like how they look. Kind of makes it look pretty good. Gives it those little extra details. Like I said, since I don't want to remove this window right here, I'm just gonna vignette it. I know the door looks ugly as hell, but that's kind of where my photo sits at. And then I press the A key, double click my mouse, and it flattens it out completely. This is the before, this is the after, the before, then the after.